Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the bustling streets of ancient Rome, where the clatter of sandals on cobblestones mingles with the aroma of fresh bread and, well, a hint of something a bit less pleasant, because let's be honest, sanitation back then wasn't exactly what we'd call a five-star experience. Picture yourself wandering past marble fountains and grand forums, holding a crude little stick that you'll soon use to clean your teeth. Sounds charming, right? You probably won't survive a week with their dental habits, but tonight, you're safe in your cozy bed, and I'm here to tell you all about how ancient Romans cleaned their teeth without toothpaste. Spoiler alert. It involves some stuff you might want to squint at and pretend you didn't hear. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see how many time zones we can cover while we slowly drift off together. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Roman oral hygiene might not have been glamorous, but it was certainly inventive. In a city filled with grand architecture and ambitious emperors, the quest for a clean smile took some unexpected turns. Unlike us modern folks with our minty toothpaste and electric brushes, Romans relied on everyday materials, some quite surprising, to keep their teeth clean. And while you won't find a coliseum of dental technology, their methods had a certain rustic charm. Imagine walking through a market where vendors offer powdered charcoal and crushed bones, or sitting in a bathhouse where the smell of scented oils mingles with, well, let's just say, not so pleasant odors from other sources of cleaning. It's a world where personal cleanliness was public business, and teeth were no exception. Historians still argue whether these methods actually prevented tooth decay or just masked the problem with fresh scents and abrasive scrubs. Some say the wear on surviving teeth shows they were effective. Others suspect the opposite. Either way, tonight, you get a front row seat to the quirks and curiosities of Roman dental care, all from the comfort of your pillow. You trudge further into the Roman world, where the gleaming smiles of senators and commoners alike carried more than just pride. They were symbols of health, status, and sometimes even political power. The Roman smile wasn't just a casual gesture. It was part of their social currency. Bright, clean teeth signaled discipline and self-care, qualities admired in both public and private life. Unlike today, where a grin might be plastered with toothpaste ads and whitening strips, the Romans had a more earthy approach to their dental charm. It's fascinating to realize that dental hygiene was so ingrained in their culture that writers like Pliny, the Elder, and even the poet Martial mentioned teeth and breath in their works, not always flattering, mind you. Romans understood the importance of oral care, but they also accepted some unpleasant realities with a sort of practical resignation. After all, with all the wine, bread, and street food, keeping teeth pristine was an ongoing battle. And here's a quirky tidbit. Roman doctors sometimes linked bad breath not just to poor hygiene, but to an imbalance of bodily humorous, a medical theory inherited from the Greeks. So, if your breath smelled off, it might mean you needed to balance your phlegm or black bile. You'd probably prefer modern breath mints, but hey, it's all relative. But let's not forget that while some Romans prided themselves on dental care, others couldn't afford such luxuries. The wealthy had access to better tools and ingredients, but the average citizen made do with what they had. Think of a baker grabbing a twig to chew on after a hard day of kneading dough. That twig was his toothbrush and floss in one. Historians still debate how widespread and effective oral hygiene truly was among the lower classes, since most surviving evidence comes from wealthier tombs and writings. Did the poor simply accept toothaches as fate? Or did they have their own home remedies? Tonight, we'll wander through both worlds, soaking up the smells, tastes, and textures of a society that took its smiles seriously, even without modern conveniences. You find yourself holding a small, oddly shaped stick, worn smooth from years of use, as you step deeper into the daily routines of ancient Romans. These early cleaning tools were surprisingly effective, even if they look primitive compared to your modern toothbrush. The Romans didn't have nylon bristles or electric gadgets. Instead, they relied on chew stick twigs from fragrant trees like mastic, myrtle, or even fig. You gnaw on one end until it frays, turning it into a natural brush, then use it to scrub your teeth and gums. It's a simple, sustainable routine, perfect for a society that valued practicality. Interestingly, chew sticks weren't unique to Rome. They were common across many ancient cultures, but the Romans popularized them widely. You might imagine yourself sharing a bench in the Forum with a fellow Roman, both of you casually chewing on your sticks after a hearty meal of olives and bread. It's oddly social in its own way, like an ancient version of flossing in public. Aside from chew sticks, there were also toothpicks slender and sometimes ornately carved. They doubled as status symbols. Wealthier Romans might carry ivory or bone picks, a bit like carrying a stylish pen today. There's even evidence some used small feathers or quills for delicate cleaning. Think of it, a whole dental toolkit right there in your toga pocket. But here's a quirky fringe fact. Archaeologists have found ancient toothbrushes with bristles made from boar hair. Imagine the texture, not exactly the gentle scrub you're used to, more like a rough wake-up call for your gums. It's an early example of how Romans sought to innovate despite limited resources. Historians still argue whether these tools prevented serious dental problems or merely delayed the inevitable toothaches and cavities. Some suggest abrasive twigs might have worn down enamel over time, while others believe they helped remove plaque surprisingly well. Either way, chewing on sticks was the closest thing Romans had to a dental routine, and it served them for centuries. You're now holding a small bowl filled with a powdery mixture, poised to scrub away the day's dinner remnants from your teeth. Roman toothpaste, or rather, their dental powders were a curious blend of ingredients, some familiar, others downright surprising. Unlike today's minty gels, Roman mixtures often included crushed bones, oyster shells, charcoal, and even pumice stone. These abrasives acted like scrubbing agents, helping to remove plaque and stains, but they also likely gave your mouth an unexpected gritty feeling, like trying to brush with tiny pebbles. It's a far cry from the smooth, minty paste you're used to, but effective enough for its time. The Romans also threw in some flavors, like powdered bark, ground herbs, or dried flowers, to mask the less pleasant smells. Imagine trying to convince yourself that crushed seashell dust tastes like lavender hope springs eternal. One particular concoction called dentifricium combined these abrasive powders with honey or vinegar to create a sticky paste, though the vinegar's acidity might have worn down teeth faster than it helped. You probably wouldn't want to swallow any of it, but they certainly believed in its power. And here's a quirky historical tidbit. Some recipes included urinize. You heard that right. Urine contains ammonia, a natural cleaning agent, and Romans weren't shy about using it for whitening teeth and freshening breath. In fact, it was such a common practice that even the Emperor Nero reportedly used it as a mouthwash. Not exactly your typical morning routine, but hey, it got the job done in the absence of modern chemistry. Historians still argue whether these abrasive powders and unusual ingredients actually improved oral health or just masked problems temporarily. Some dental remains show significant wear consistent with harsh cleaning, suggesting that these mixtures were a double-edged sword-clean teeth at the cost of enamel erosion. Nonetheless, the Roman approach to dental powder reflects a practical, if somewhat eccentric, attitude toward hygiene. As you lean closer to the scene, the scent is unmistakable. Roman urine was a surprisingly common ingredient in their dental routines. While it might make you wrinkle your nose in modern times, back then, urine was prized for its cleansing properties. The ammonia it contained worked as a natural bleaching and disinfecting agent, making it quite effective for teeth whitening and fighting bad breath. The idea of swishing around what was essentially ancient mouthwash might not be your cup of tea, but the Romans were nothing if not practical. The use of urine in hygiene extended beyond just teeth. It was collected from public latrines and even taxed by the Emperor Vespasian. You might picture vendors peddling this potent liquid for dental purposes, a little like the ancient equivalent of your local pharmacy. Interestingly, the Latin phrase pecunia non ole, money doesn't stink, originated from the tax on urine, hinting at how lucrative this business was despite its pungent nature. Roman scholars and physicians wrote about the benefits of urine in their texts, recommending it for a variety of cleaning and medicinal uses. There's even speculation that they distinguish between fresh and aged urine, with some believing the older stuff was more potent for whitening teeth. It's a bizarre detail that shows how differently health and hygiene were understood. But here's a fringe tidbit. Some archaeological evidence suggests that urine was sometimes mixed with other ingredients like ashes or vinegar to create more complex tooth powders. The combination might have been harsh, but it reflects a sophisticated trial and error approach. You might not want to try it yourself, but it shows Roman inventiveness in tackling oral hygiene. Historians still argue whether urine actually delivered lasting benefits or merely masked deeper dental issues. The smell and taste likely deterred many, but for a society without modern toothpaste, it was a trusted method. Tonight, as you relax, imagine the strange rituals Romans embraced to keep their smiles bright even if the methods would make you wince. You step into the grandeur of a Roman bathhouse, a place where cleanliness and socializing entwined like vines on a pergola. Bathhouses weren't just about washing away dirt. They were the heart of Roman hygiene culture, and oral care played its part here too. Picture marble benches, warm steam curling through vaulted ceilings, and the murmur of conversations mingling with the splash of water. It was common for Romans to combine bathing with various grooming rituals, including brushing teeth with the chew sticks or powders we talked about. Interestingly, the bathhouses also hosted vendors selling perfumes, oils, and even early toothpaste concoctions. You could buy your dental supplies on site, perhaps rubbing a minty balm onto your gums after a soak. The scent of lavender or rosemary oils mixed with the less pleasant aromas of the crowd, definitely a more fragrant experience than a modern crowded gym locker room, but not by much. There's a quirky detail here. Some bathhouse attendants doubled as dentists, offering basic dental care like tooth extractions or cleaning. Imagine that, a soak in the warm pools followed by a quick dental procedure. It's not exactly spa day material by today's standards, but in Roman times, it was all part of keeping your body and mouth healthy. The connection between oral hygiene and overall cleanliness was strong in Roman culture. They believed that a clean body supported a healthy mouth, and vice versa. Bathhouses symbolize this holistic approach, making them centers not only of social life, but also of personal health. Historians still argue whether frequent visits to the baths actually improved dental health, or if they mainly provided a social setting where oral care products were advertised and exchanged. Either way, the bathhouse was an important backdrop for the ancient ritual of tooth cleaning, blending hygiene with community in a way few modern places can match. You wander now through a bustling Roman neighborhood where the divide between the wealthy and the common folk is as visible as the contrast between their smiles. Dental care in ancient Rome wasn't a one-size-fits-all affair. Your social status heavily influenced your access to hygiene products and practices. Wealthier Romans enjoyed the luxury of imported ingredients, specialized tools, and even personal attendants to help maintain their oral health. Meanwhile, the average citizen had to rely on simpler, often homemade remedies. Imagine a patrician reclining in his villa, where crushed oyster shells and imported mint oils were part of his daily tooth-cleaning ritual. His toothpicks might be delicately carved from ivory or bone, a subtle status symbol that said, "I care enough to invest in my smile." Meanwhile, down the street, a laborer might be chewing on a local twig and rubbing ash from the hearth into his gums, doing his best with what was at hand. There's an amusing little note that some wealthy Romans used powdered mouse brains in their dental mixtures, believing it had medicinal properties. While this sounds downright bizarre to us, it highlights the willingness to experiment with whatever seemed promising, no matter how odd. Definitely a conversation starter at the dinner table. Interestingly, some historians debate just how widespread these elite dental practices were. Was the average Roman more like the aristocrat or the commoner scraping by? Archaeological evidence is patchy, but dental remains suggest that poor Romans often suffered from more cavities and tooth loss, pointing to significant inequality in oral health. Still, across all classes, maintaining a decent smile was important. Whether with fancy powders or humble twigs, Romans understood that a clean mouth helped social interactions, and in a society so focused on appearances, that was no small thing. Roman dentistry didn't evolve in isolation. It drew heavily from Greek medical wisdom, weaving Hellenistic ideas into its own practices. Imagine a Roman doctor poring over Greek scrolls, translating Hippocrates and Galen, and blending their teachings with local customs. This exchange shaped how Romans approached oral health, dentistry included. Greek physicians emphasized the importance of hygiene and preventive care, which Roman doctors adopted and adapted. They understood the connection between diet, health, and dental problems better than many later societies. Hippocrates, often called the father of medicine, recommended simple cleaning methods and cautioned against excessive tooth extraction, favoring preservation when possible. Romans took these ideas seriously, balancing practical treatments with a philosophical approach to health. In Greek medical texts, there's frequent mention of herbal remedies for oral ailments. Romans embraced these, using chamomile, sage, and myrrh in mouth rinses and pastes, borrowing directly from Greek pharmacopoeia. These herbs, beyond masking odors, offered mild antiseptic and anti-inflammatory effects. However, while the Greeks advocated for moderation and balance, some Roman interpretations veered toward harsher treatments, perhaps a sign of cultural difference or local trial and error. Roman doctors also absorbed Greek knowledge about the causes of dental pain and decay, though much remained mysterious. The humoral theory, where bodily fluids needed balance dominated, leading to treatments aimed at correcting internal imbalances rather than just symptoms. You might see a Roman physician prescribing dietary changes alongside topical applications to treat a toothache, reflecting this holistic approach. Interestingly, some Greek dental tools inspired Roman designs. For example, small bronze probes and forceps found in Roman ruins closely resemble those described in Greek texts. Wealthy Romans might even seek out Greek-trained doctors for specialized dental care, blending prestige with perceived medical expertise. There's also evidence that Greek philosophy influenced Roman attitudes toward cleanliness and beauty. The Greeks celebrated the aesthetic value of a healthy white smile, associating it with virtue and moral character. Romans adopted this, linking dental care with social status and personal discipline. So, your Roman neighbor's bright smile wasn't just cosmetic, it was a statement. Yet, historians still argue about how thoroughly these Greek medical theories penetrated Roman everyday life. Did average Romans access Greek-style medical care? Or was it mostly a luxury for the elite? Written records focus on learned physicians, leaving the practices of common folk less clear. A curious fringe detail. Some scholars suggest that Greek medical texts warned against overusing abrasive powders, fearing enamel damage, while Roman use of gritty substances like crushed shells continued unabated. Was this a case of cultural preference overriding medical advice? The debate is ongoing. So, the next time you consider brushing your teeth, think about the ancient knowledge trail stretching from Greek philosophers to Roman physicians, blending science, art, and tradition into something approaching early dental care. When it came to trusting someone with your teeth, ancient Rome had a mix of street dentists and medical professionals, each with varying skills and reputations. Unlike today's organized dental clinics, you might find yourself walking down a bustling street lined with vendors, some offering food, others offering services among them. The tooth pullers and cleaners. Street dentists were often itinerant practitioners who advertised their services loudly, sometimes with signs or shouts, promising to pull teeth, treat abscesses, or fix dental problems for a fee. These folk dentists used rudimentary tools, metal hooks, forceps, and drills, most likely causing more pain than relief. You might see them setting up shop near the forum or marketplace, attracting crowds of curious onlookers and desperate patients alike. Despite their rough reputation, some street dentists gained popularity for quick, effective work, especially in emergencies. After all, when a toothache flared up badly, waiting for a doctor wasn't an option. But the risks were high. Infections, botched extractions, and even death were common. Historians still argue how regulated or tolerated these street dentists were. Some sources suggest occasional crackdowns, while others imply their services filled an essential gap in healthcare. On the other hand, more professional medical practitioners, often trained in Greek medicine, offered dental care as part of their wider medical practice. These physicians approached dental problems with a mix of herbal remedies, surgery, and preventive advice. They were more likely to use sterile techniques, at least by ancient standards, and had better tools. Interestingly, some physicians specialized specifically in dental issues and oral surgery. Though this wasn't a common standalone profession, their services were often sought by wealthier clients who could afford better care. These doctors might use small bronze or iron instruments designed for delicate work, such as removing decay or performing minor surgeries. A fascinating archaeological find from Pompeii revealed a dental clinic complete with tools and instructions carved on walls, indicating an organized practice and public awareness of dental health. This suggests that some urban centers had established dental services beyond the informal street vendors. There's also evidence of barbers doubling as dentists. These multi-skilled practitioners offered tooth extractions alongside haircuts and minor surgeries. While this might sound like a strange combination, it was practical. Both professions involved sharp tools and close work on the body. Pain management was a major challenge. Physicians sometimes used herbal anesthetics like mandrake or opium to numb patients before dental procedures. But these were risky and not always reliable, making extractions and surgeries traumatic events. The Romans also used surgical techniques to remove diseased teeth or treat abscesses, although success varied. Some dentists even attempted early forms of dental prosthetics, like gold wire to stabilize loose teeth, showing remarkable ingenuity. Historians still debate the quality and safety of dental care available to the general population. While the wealthy might enjoy skilled medical attention, many others relied on untrained street practitioners or home remedies. So, when you next fret about a dental appointment, remember the mixed bag of tooth pullers, barber dentists, and trained physicians navigating the crowded streets of ancient Rome, each offering their own brand of relief, sometimes with a little more drama than you'd expect. When a tooth turned from a nuisance to a nightmare, Romans faced the daunting prospect of extractiona, procedure that by modern standards was about as pleasant as a trip to the Colosseum for a gladiator fight. Pulling teeth was common, but the methods were rough, the pain intense, and the risks high. Without anesthesia as we know it, pain relief depended on herbal sedatives or narcotics, such as opium or mandrake extracts. These substances could dull pain to some extent, but dosage was tricky. Too little, and you'd feel every wrench and tug. Too much, and you risk slipping into unconsciousness or worse. Some physicians mixed these drugs into wine or ointments applied before surgery, trying to calm the patient's nerves. Historians still argue how effective these ancient anesthetics really were, and whether patients' screams were as common as some accounts suggest. The extraction tools themselves were metal bronze, iron, or even silver for the wealthy, shaped like forceps, pincers, or hooks. A skilled tooth puller had to grasp the tooth firmly and yank it out, often with several painful attempts. Given the lack of sterilization, infections were a frequent consequence. Pus-filled abscesses, fevers, and even death from sepsis were risks anyone facing extraction had to consider. There are some accounts of dental surgeons attempting to numb the gums with cold or burning herbs to reduce pain, but these were mostly temporary distractions rather than true anesthesia. Imagine biting down on a leather strap, clenching your fists, and hoping it's over quickly. That was probably a typical scenario. Sometimes, if extraction wasn't an option, dentists resorted to filing or drilling down decayed parts of the tooth, though their tools were crude, and success varied. Early attempts at dental fillings using wax or resin have been suggested by archaeological finds, but these were rare and primitive. Interestingly, Roman texts advise caution in tooth removal, warning that extracting the wrong tooth or applying too much force could damage the jaw or cause lasting problems. This shows a sophisticated awareness of oral anatomy, even if techniques were limited. For soldiers or laborers, losing teeth could be especially debilitating. Some attempts were made to create prosthetic teeth, using gold, wire, or bone to replace missing teeth or hold loose ones together. While these were rudimentary compared to modern dentures, they reflect an early desire to restore function and appearance. Aftercare was critical but difficult. Without antibiotics, wounds had to be kept clean with rinses of wine or vinegar to prevent infection. Healing was slow, and the risk of complications high. So, facing a Roman tooth extraction meant bravery, pain, and a dash of luck. If you survived the procedure without infection or worse, you were one tough Roman. Next time you dread the dentist's chair, remember those ancient Romans gripping their jaw, biting down on cloth, and enduring tooth extractions that would make your root canal seem like a spa day. What you ate mattered just as much as how you cleaned your teeth. The Roman diet was a curious mix of the wholesome and the sugary, shaping their dental health in complex ways. Imagine sitting down to a Roman feast, sampling foods that could both nourish and slowly destroy your smile. Grains were a staple. Think dense, coarse bread, often ground with stone mills that left tiny bits of grit in the flour. This grit acted like sandpaper on teeth, wearing down enamel over time, but also possibly cleaning away plaque. So, a rustic loaf might chip away at your teeth while feeding you. Fruits and vegetables, especially apples, figs, and grapes, provided vitamins, but also sugar. Honey was the main sweetener, liberally drizzled on cakes and desserts. Unlike modern refined sugar, honey was less processed but still sticky and cavity-inducing. Dried fruits, a popular snack, packed concentrated sugar and could cling to teeth, creating a perfect breeding ground for decay. Romans loved wine, often diluted with water, which introduced acid into the mouth, another enemy of enamel. Some scholars argue that wine's acidity contributed to tooth erosion among the elite, who drank more frequently. On the flip side, Romans consumed fewer processed carbohydrates and refined sugars than we do today, which may have limited rampant cavities. Meat, fish, and cheese featured regularly, providing protein and minerals important for healthy teeth and gums. Salt was abundant, both as a preservative and seasoning. Salt can have mild antibacterial effects, but combined with the coarse diet and acidic foods, it likely contributed to dental wear. Interestingly, the rough texture of food and the abrasive elements in bread might have served as a crude dental cleaning aid, scraping away plaque mechanically. Historians still debate whether this abrasion was overall beneficial or harmful. Social class also influenced diet and thus dental health. Wealthy Romans had access to sweeter, richer foods, increasing their risk of cavities, while poorer citizens ate simpler, coarser diets with fewer sweets but more grit. Soldiers' diets were simpler, mainly hardtack bread, salted meat, and dried legumes, providing nutrition but with the same abrasive grit. Food choices also impacted breath. Garlic and onions, beloved for flavor, probably left behind strong odors not so easily masked by ancient mouth rinses. So, in the grand scheme, Roman diet was a double-edged sword, nourishing but often tough on teeth. It's no wonder oral health varied widely across the population. The next time you bite into a soft, sugar-laden snack, be glad your teeth don't have to endure the rough, gritty diet that both cleaned and wore down the mouths of ancient Romans. Roman soldiers were the backbone of the empire, and keeping them healthy, teeth included, was surprisingly important. Imagine marching long distances, eating tough rations, and needing a strong set of teeth to survive harsh conditions. Dental care in the legions was a practical matter, balancing hygiene with the realities of military life. Legionaries often ate coarse grains, hard bread, salted meat, and dried fruits, diets that mirrored civilians but with more emphasis on durability and shelf life. These foods were tough on teeth, wearing down enamel but also cleaning some plaque through abrasion. Soldiers had to chew their rations carefully, as a broken tooth could become a serious liability in the field. Maintaining dental hygiene on campaign was challenging. Water supplies were unreliable, and brushing tools limited. Some soldiers carried chew sticks or small cloths to wipe their teeth, but daily cleaning was far from guaranteed. Swishing with available liquids like diluted wine or water was common, though far from ideal. Medical support for dental issues existed within the legions. Each cohort had medics, medici, trained in basic surgery and wound care. They attempted tooth extractions or treated infections when possible. However, the skills of military medics varied, and their priority was often keeping soldiers combat ready rather than perfect dental health. Interestingly, archaeological studies of soldiers' teeth reveal heavy wear but relatively low rates of cavities, suggesting that coarse diets and limited sugar intake helped reduce decay. However, cracks, chips, and abscesses were common, indicating the physical stresses of military life. There are also accounts of soldiers using herbal remedies scavenged from the environment to ease tooth pain or freshen breath. Plants like mint or chamomile might have been chewed or brewed into rinses when available. Social hierarchy within the army likely influenced access to better care. Officers could afford better food and medical attention, while rank-and-file soldiers managed with what they had. The Legion's dental health had broader implications. Untreated dental infections could weaken soldiers, spreading illness through camps and compromising military efficiency. Historians still debate how systematically dental care was provided in the legions. Some argue that while basic care was available, dental hygiene was often neglected due to the practical difficulties of life on the march. So, as you imagine Roman soldiers forging empire boundaries, remember that alongside their armor and weapons, their teeth carried the weight of survival, scraped, cracked, and cleaned the best they could amid hardship. Public baths in ancient Rome weren't just for washing off the dust of the day. They were social hubs, centers of relaxation, and surprisingly, places where hygiene rituals like tooth cleaning unfolded. Picture stepping into a grand bathhouse, steam rising, the scent of olive oil mingling with the chatter of Romans discussing politics and gossip while tending to their teeth. Bathhouses featured large pools, steam rooms, and spaces for massages and hair grooming. They also served as venues for personal hygiene practices, including dental care. It wasn't uncommon for Romans to use communal facilities for cleaning their mouth-swishing herbal rinses or rubbing teeth with chew sticks right there in the bustling baths. Some bathhouses even had attendants who assisted patrons with grooming tasks, possibly including tooth cleaning. Wealthier bathers might bring their own dental kit chew sticks, powders, and small mirrors to maintain their smiles amidst the relaxation. The social nature of bathhouses meant that oral hygiene was part of a broader ritual of self-care and presentation. Cleaning your teeth before heading into the pools was a mark of respect for others and yourself, blending practicality with social etiquette. However, communal use of dental tools or rinsing stations likely contributed to the spread of germs, a downside to the public aspect of these rituals. Historians still argue about how hygienic these practices truly were, but the importance placed on cleanliness and appearance is clear. Additionally, the fragrant herbs and oils used in bathhouses extended to dental care. Patrons often rinsed with infused waters or chewed aromatic twigs, leaving their breath fresh for conversation in the social spaces. Myrrh, rosemary, and mint were favorites, their scents mingling in the humid air. The architecture of bathhouses, with their marble and mosaics, reflected Roman values of beauty and order, paralleling the desire for a clean, appealing smile. Both were seen as extensions of personal and civic pride. It's worth noting that bathhouses were open to many social classes, though some had separate times or sections for men and women, elites and commoners. This meant that dental hygiene practices varied in access and quality, mirroring wider social inequalities. In sum, the Roman bath was a stage for many facets of life, including the curious rituals of oral careware, cleanliness, socializing, and self-presentation mingled steamily together. So next time you soak in a bath or visit a spa, remember the ancient Romans gathering around pools, not just to clean their bodies, but to freshen their smiles in a bustling, communal performance of hygiene. Archaeologists have uncovered a treasure trove of Roman teeth, revealing intimate details about ancient hygiene, diet, and health. These dental relics act like time capsules, telling stories not written in scroll stories of wear, decay, disease, and sometimes surprisingly good care. Analyzing ancient teeth, scientists find heavy signs of wear from abrasive diets, grooves from grinding gritty bread, chips from hard foods, and even evidence of early dental work like fillings or extractions. These tell us that while Romans struggled with tooth damage, they understood enough to attempt repairs or removal. Interestingly, many skeletons show surprisingly low levels of cavities compared to later populations. This likely reflects the lower sugar consumption and the abrasive nature of their diet, which mechanically cleaned teeth even as it wore them down. Historians still argue whether the abrasiveness was a blessing or a curse cleaner teeth, but more exposed dentin and sensitivity. In some cases, archaeologists discovered small gold wires embedded in jaws, thought to stabilize loose teeth-healy dental braces, if you will. It's a remarkable sign of Roman ingenuity and concern for oral function. Microscopic analysis reveals residues of herbal compounds on teeth, confirming the use of plant-based powders and rinses. Traces of charcoal, ashes, and crushed shells also validate historical records of abrasive tooth powders. Pathological signs show many had gum disease or infections, likely due to the lack of modern preventive care. Untreated abscesses and tooth loss were common and painful. Some skulls bear evidence of surgical interventions, showing that dental surgery was practiced, albeit crudely. The archaeological record also hints at social disparities. Elite graves often contain better preserved teeth with less decay, possibly due to superior diet and dental care access. Meanwhile, poorer individuals' teeth show more severe wear and disease. One quirky find: some teeth bear marks from habitual chewing of objects like pens or hairpins, hinting at nervous habits or cultural practices. Studying these teeth opens a window into Roman daily life, what they ate, how they cared for themselves, and even the stresses they endured. Historians still debate how representative these finds are of the general population, as archaeological remains often come from specific sites or social strata. So, every time you flash a smile, remember those ancient Roman teeth worn, repaired, and sometimes lost each, a testament to the timeless struggle of maintaining oral health in a tough world. Now, the big question: were Roman teeth actually cleaner or healthier than we give them credit for? Historians and scientists continue to debate this, weighing archaeological evidence against written records and cultural practices. It's not a simple yes or no, but a complex mix of factors that shaped dental health in the ancient empire. On one hand, the abrasive nature of the Roman diet, with gritty bread and coarse grains mechanically cleaned teeth, reducing plaque buildup and cavities. Lower sugar consumption compared to modern diets likely helped limit tooth decay, as sugary treats were rarer and less refined. Archaeological findings show surprisingly low cavity rates in some populations, suggesting their dental care might have been more effective than we imagine. On the other hand, heavy enamel wear, cracks, and gum disease were widespread. The use of abrasive powders and acidic rinses like vinegar or urine, while helpful in cleaning or whitening, may have damaged teeth over time, exposing sensitive layers and increasing pain and infection risk. Poor oral hygiene among the lower classes, combined with limited access to medical care, meant many Romans suffered from painful dental problems. Social status played a big role. Wealthier Romans could afford exotic ingredients, better care, and even early dental surgeries, while the common folk made do with rudimentary tools and home remedies. The gap between rich and poor extended to smiles. Written sources sometimes exaggerate or moralize about hygiene, making it tricky to separate fact from social ideal. Meanwhile, archaeological evidence is limited by preservation biases and the difficulty of interpreting damage causes. Historians still argue about how widespread daily tooth cleaning was among ordinary Romans. Some think it was a common habit. Others believe it was mostly the elite maintaining dental routines. What remains clear is that Romans cared about their teeth, not just health, but appearance and social standing. Their inventive use of chew sticks, powders, rinses, and even urine reveals a practical, if pungent, approach to oral care. So, as you settle in tonight, remember those ancient smiles, both dazzling and flawed, carrying the weight of empire, diet, and cultural quirks. Their efforts paved the way, however imperfectly, for the dental care we enjoy today. As your eyes grow heavy and the day fades away, let your mind drift gently through the streets and baths of ancient Rome. Picture the quiet moments before dawn, the soft rustle of leaves as someone frays a chew stick, the faint scent of myrtle and herbs lingering in the air. Imagine the ritual of cleansing not just the body but the smile, a symbol of health, status, and connection across time. Though their tools were simple and their methods strange by today's standards, the Romans shared with us a universal truth: the desire to care for ourselves, to present our best face to the world, to find comfort in small daily acts. Their gritty powders and pungent rinses might seem bizarre, yet they speak of resourcefulness and a deep-rooted need for cleanliness. Let the image of a Roman bather swishing herbal rinse in the warm steam, or a soldier wiping his teeth after a long march, lull you toward restful sleep. Think of the smiles, imperfect, worn but cared for, bridging centuries between us. As the world quiets, remember that every smile carries a story, and every habit connects us to those who came before. Your own nightly routine, simple and modern, is part of this long human journey. So, breathe slowly, let go of the day's worries, and sink into peaceful dreams. The ancient Romans have brushed their teeth for you in a way only they could. Good night.